What if your most powerful move as a thought leader is not how productive you can be and non-stop productivity, but actually how much you can restore yourself? Actually, how much you can resonate by speaking to people from a place of clarity and from a place of deep focus. You're listening to Madam Speaker Says, your no fluff cheat code to becoming the voice everyone listens to. I'm your host, Magogodi. If you've been waiting for a permission slip to straighten your crown and take up space like you invented the blueprint, Madam Speaker Says got you covered. No whispers, no apologies, just you, me, and some bold ass moves. Let's get into it. You are listening to Madam Speaker Says, and I am your host, Magogodi. Today's show is a little bit different. Today, I am here by myself, no guests, and it's you and I to unpack something that is so toxic and insidious that threatens the very work that you're doing as a thought leader. I want to talk about how do we get alignment over the optics of productivity and start really digging into our resonance as thought leaders, right? Instead of worrying about, am I going to be irrelevant if I'm completely nonstop? If I don't hop on the treadmill that is about being completely nonstop, what would it be like if I gave myself permission to rest when I need it? What would it be like if you actually listened to your body? If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that last week there was a complete stop. It was like Magogodi, hello, tring. Hello, Magogodi. Girl, where you at? There's no podcast. I am trying to download and there's nothing coming through. Are you committed? Are you consistent? And the truth is, I was fighting for my life. Girl, when I tell you I had a health scare that totally, it came out of left field, first of all, okay? And let me say this. And let me present myself. If you're listening to this and you're not on camera, you can go and see on YouTube the evidence. She is healthy. She is glowing. She is all of the things that are full health and restored. I'm also fully rested, right? The way that I was able to recover from this health scare. And I have to tell you something, the health scare was this wasn't like, oh, I've got a little case of a cough or, oh, I have a new strain of COVID. No, this was like, this put me out. And I'm a mom of a toddler. And my husband was traveling. So here I am in a foreign country. I'm all by myself. Of course, I have amazing support, so I'm not pretending, but I don't have like my immediate family. I don't have my mom here and the people that I count on in my inner circle. I get really sick. I start showing these bizarre symptoms. I am so nervous. I'm not this kind of person at all. I'm one of those people who's like, avoid the doctor like the plague. I don't advise this, but let me be real. That's kind of like, how I typically operate. Anyways, these symptoms scare me enough to rush me immediately to the ER. And I'm like, listen, something is not computing. You see this face? Like this face does not look the way that it usually does. And these are the symptoms and da 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 da. And when I'm speaking to ChatGPT, like the things that are coming back to me are scary as fuck. So there I am in my hobbling along, barely there Spanish, trying to explain to the doctors what is happening to me and also trying to be a primary caretaker to my baby because, like I said, my husband was traveling at the time. And oh, the level of vulnerability, right? The level of, oh, I have to get my stuff in order because for a 24-hour period, things were really dialed up. And the questions of what was possible that could have been the thing that was causing this were really scary. I had to be completely present, but really the thing that I was most present to, I have to name it. I was just present to a lot of fear. Present to a lot of fear, but then also present to a lot of these narratives and the conditioning that we have around productivity. And what is it like for me to be sick? And can I afford to take this kind of time off? Long story short, I got the help that I needed. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And let me tell you something. If you ever find yourself in a place like Oaxaca, Mexico, the healthcare here is excellent and it treats us humans as patients and not consumers. That was so refreshing. That's a side note, but it's an important one. I then go to the East Coast where I do have family, and I was able to take so much spacious time off, which is why last week there was no podcast, right? No episode on the podcast. And I want today to talk about that. I want to address and unpack this thing that we have inside ourselves, the narratives that we carry. Sometimes they're our own narratives, but more often than not, they're super toxic ideas that we've inherited from somewhere else, right? From society at large, maybe from somebody who you loved, maybe from somebody who you loved and wanted to see you get ahead. I bet you the things that I was saying to myself and the thoughts that were rushing through my head of, oh my God, if I stop now, I'm going to lose the momentum of all of this hard work that I've put in. Oh my goodness, they're not going to believe that I'm really serious, and I'm eroding my trust by not showing up for this particular week. Like, the clearly my audience is going to lose trust in me, and also my relevance is going to shrink. Like, I'm not going to be the person at the top of mind because I missed an episode. I missed one particular week. I know that you have heard this. I know that you've heard this, that if you rest, you're going to lose out on the algorithm and you're going to actually lose your audience. If any of these things resonate, if that has been you, if you've had any of these thoughts, this episode is for you. I am going to disabuse you of why staying on the treadmill and focusing on nonstop productivity is actually going to undermine and underwhelm your thoughts leadership over the smarter thing to do, which is restoring yourself and coming to thought leadership from a full well. Okay, let me just ask you a really big and important question. Who benefits when you tell yourself and when you tell others, but most importantly, who benefits when you tell yourself that if you pause, you're going to disappear? I'm just going to give you a minute to stew in that. Who benefits when you tell yourself that if you stop the treadmill of constant output, of constant productivity, all the posts, all the content, all the thought leadership, all the writing, all the speaking, all of the things, that if you stop that machine, that you will become irrelevant? I want you to just pause and consider who is profiting from that lie. Okay. Now that we've taken that break, let's move on. And let me offer you a little bit of a mini masterclass that is comparing the cost of hobbling along, right? And believing in that lie. If you want to believe in that lie, like, and if it serves you to believe in that lie, I'm not here to argue with you, but I just want to give you some helpful information that considers what what is the cost of hobbling along by believing that if you stop, then you're going to disappear versus the ROI, right, of rest, which if you don't know, like the ROI and the MBA language, all we're talking about is the return on investment of resting. Let's compare the two. Let's start with, what does it cost you to keep hobbling along? You know, when you, and the sentence that I'm going to say that was coming out of my mouth is the cost to your clarity when you are not well rested. the cost to your clarity when you are ill and you're suppressing the thing that actually needs the most immediate attention, your body. I went through this firsthand. Okay. When I took that hiatus and I kind of like just ghosted because I wasn't feeling well, the level of like clarity and focus that I had was so minute. I could only focus on the smallest thing in front of me. And usually it was like, let me drink this water to stay hydrated, okay? Let me make sure that my son has eaten and sit next to him and hold the spoon to him because that is the most that I can do right now. Let me put my legs up so that I can get some relief for my body right now. And let me turn all of the things off, the amount that it costs you, right? And your clarity when you are hobbling along isn't just about the physicality of your body, but I want you to think about this. If you keep hobbling along and pretending that you don't need rest, your body is deteriorating and your actual thought leadership, the thing that you think you're preserving by working so hard, it's actually you're hurting it by keeping on, by pretending that your over productivity and your marriage to productivity is going to help it. What do I mean? I mean that your message is diluted. The number of times I was sending a text and the text was like a muddled thought that didn't really make a lot of sense until I would get on the phone with somebody like my mom and be like, here's what I actually mean. And then especially somebody having visuals of being able to see me and me being able to explain in non-verbal language, here's what I mean. Guess what? You're doing that in your thought leadership and you're definitely doing it in your business too. You're sending messy emails when you don't have enough rest. You're doing things that are out of character for you. You're sending out reports that are sloppy and don't have all of the excellence that you're capable of. You're standing on stage, or maybe you're speaking to people in an intimate conversation over dinner and you're falling asleep because you need rest. You're diluting your message. You're increasing the risk of burnout. Like I said, you're only deteriorating your body more. And trust me, that is going to cost you not just the business, but it's going to cost you the things that matter the most to you because your health hinges on all of those things, right? And this one, my friend, this is so funny because we think that if we disappear, then we're not going to be relevant, right? But actually, when we stay and we're like just hobbling along, we're not healthy, we're talking gibberish all of the time, you're eroding your credibility. So you think that if you stay, you're going to remain relevant. No, honey, no, that's not how it works. What you're actually doing is you're eroding your credibility because that email that you sent that you now have to correct, that report that went out that had 500 million errors, that person that you spoke to, who you spoke to in a really sharp way that you shouldn't have because your ass is tired, your credibility is actually eroding because you don't know how to just say, like, I need some space. There is really interesting data and research around sleep, particularly, right? That helps us understand the effect of being somebody who is swimming through life but completely under, where you don't have your life vest on. You don't have any of the support systems that you need in order to be in a marathon, especially if the marathon is in water. You don't have any of that gear on, and you're just like going on vibes and hoping you don't like completely fade out by the time you get to the nth mile. What I want you to understand is the research shows that when you don't have sleep, your cognitive performance takes a hit, meaning your brain function, you're not brain functioning right. Like it ain't mathing the way that it's supposed to math in your brain. Your decision making takes a hit, right? You make sloppier decisions that don't really make sense and sometimes aren't as logically tight or as spiritually woke and all of the things that you need in order to make sound judgments. because you don't have enough sleep. Your creativity, this one surprises some people, I think. And if you are a creative, which let me tell you something, I'm a writer. I'm trained in nonfiction writing from one of the best schools in the world. I know who I am as a writer, my sharpness, the freshness of my ideas, which is why I actually write in the morning in the first place, because I want to get the best energy that I have. Catch me when I'm the lowest energy and I'm a completely different person. I can't even string together like three words to make a whole sentence, right? Your creativity takes such a knock when you are not rested. And sleep is correlated to that. But I definitely want you to know that long term fatigue and ignoring, and maybe even in moments like me this past couple weeks where I was sick, the moments when I was sick, like, are you kidding me? I couldn't, like, I remember actually I remember when I first got to the East Coast, to Philadelphia, where I have family that's based there. My mom lives in the Philadelphia area. I remember getting off the plane in Newark and the sorry state that I was in, right? Internally, I felt like a mess. But then what I looked like, my mother held it together, but she had her just jaw on the floor. And later on, once I really fully recovered, one of the things that she said to me is, I was so scared seeing you. And I say this not as an indication of how unwell I was, although that's true, but as an indication of, for me, one of my big joys in life is like, girl, I like to look good. Okay. I gotta smell good. I gotta feel good. And it is 100% part of my creative energy. For me to get on an international plane and look some kind of way. Okay. Like that is for me a measurement of like, wow, 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 wow. Like, are you okay? Like, are you yourself right now? And who better to measure that than somebody who knows me really well, my mother, reflecting back to me that the creativity that I know is part of how you put yourself together, girl. That's not showing through right now. And I can tell from that. And for some of the people, it may be you're not as funny as you usually are, right? I have somebody in my life who I absolutely like, one of my favorite human beings. And a barometer of this person's health and well being is how many jokes she's cracking, like by the minute. Okay. Just observations. This is just, it's her nature. And when this person is in a place that's compromised, when their system is not at optimal like capacity, I know because they're not seeing the funny in life. That's part of your creative brain. I want you to begin paying attention to how does creativity show up for you on the daily. I'm not talking about like when you're working on being creative, right? I'm a writer. I work on writing. That is where a lot of my creative juice comes. But I'm also somebody who enjoys fashion and style. And when I'm not feeling well, I can tell because I don't even want to show up for that, for style and fashion. What is it for you? Is it cooking? Are you an amazing chef? And suddenly, when you're not feeling well, you're in the kitchen and it's like pajama, what is it? I was going to say pajama pants. No, it's peanut butter jam sandwiches like every single day and noodles on rote. I mean, I love both of those things, but I'm just saying if you're somebody who, is an amazing cook and chef and loves to go to the market and now suddenly all you're doing is rote, yo, boo boo, that's an indicator. Okay, so pay attention. The other thing, and this one can be surprising to you, but I know for me, like firsthand, I've experienced this. Do not, please, do not deprive me of my sleep. Okay. Who I am when I'm sleep deprived, I don't know why anybody would ever want to. This is why, for me, the first years of, having a baby, those first couple weeks and months of like that deep sleep deprivation, I was like, oh, this is why they use sleep deprivation to torture people. because my emotional state right now, like I was snapping, right? And being really short and not fully able to calibrate and to find equilibrium around emotions. And I want you to know that one of the ways that you definitely pay a cost when you're hobbling along is your emotional control, your ability to control your emotions. Now let's look at the flip side, okay? Let's for a second look at the flip side. Oh, wait, we're gonna look at the flip side, the ROI of rest, what you get when you rest. But before we do that, let's talk about the money, because you're out here pretending that being nonstop productive is helping your productivity, and you're thinking that this is how I stay relevant, and this relevance is how I'm actually going to get paid. But let me disabuse you, because actually, again, you are eroding your credibility. And not only that, you're making the most expensive decision that you can for your business and for your thought leadership. What do I mean by this? There's actually hard data around this. If you're sleep deprived, and the relationship between sleep deprivation and what it actually costs productivity wise, just because you're making so many errors and you're just like not functioning at your most optimal, it's 1.2 thousand to $3,000 per person per year, right? That's what it costs to employers. Let me say that again. The cost of being sleep deprived to business is 1.2 thousand US dollars to 3,000 US dollars per employee or person per year. That's the cost that the business owner pays when somebody is sleep deprived. But here's the thing. You are not the employee. You are the thought leader. You are the owner of the business. Your lack of sleep and your being checked out is so much more expensive than what it costs. The statistics are only looking at for employees, right? What it costs the business when an employee is in this position. But when you're the decision maker, when you're the person at the very top who can create all kinds of bottlenecks around your business, just think about how much more, like how many zeros would we have to add to those numbers to account for how much your business depends on you. And if you think about yourself and you understand yourself as the MVP, the most valuable player inside of your business, if you're forced to be benched, because if you're like not benched because you're actually taking rest, but benched because you're out here like making mistakes and you're sloppy. Let's say they don't bench you, actually, they put you on the court. How much are you costing the team? Like, make it like you are costing the team so much more. And the team could actually probably like score. I'm sorry, the sports analogy ends here because I'm not a sports person, but it was a good go. It was a good go. The point is, I don't want you to be costing more to your business and to your thought leadership because you don't know how to take a break. And the studies and research actually show that it costs something to your bottom line to not take rest seriously. Okay, we're also like one other side note that I could give you is that the healthcare costs that you're going to incur, especially if you live in the United States of America, if you allow your small symptoms to become something that's really big, I do not want to see. I'm praying for you and your bill. Okay, the bill that you receive is not going to be pretty. So think about this in a really holistic way. Again, I want to talk about the return on investment for rest. But before we get there, just riddle me this for a second. Where do you think that these toxic ideas about rest and becoming irrelevant, where do you think that these come from? I already asked you the question of who do you think benefits, but let's unpeel a little bit. Where do we get these ideas from? You know, for me, one of the things that has been such a aha moment in revisiting and correcting course, right, for my relationship to rest is going all the way back to when I was a little girl growing up, tail end of apartheid South Africa. I went to a super amazing in many ways, and also super white, like lily white little primary school in Johannesburg, leafy suburbs of Johannesburg. Almost all of my classmates were white. My teachers were certainly white. This was a private school. It was Catholic, and it was run by these nuns. The nuns, one of them, I will never forget, used to say this all the time. And it wasn't just one of them. Let me just correct myself right there. It was an ethos, and it was something that we would write down in our books. Hard work brings true joy. I spoke about this on this podcast, and we were breaking down productivity with Dr. Kate Otto Shelby. If that's something that you're interested in, definitely scroll back through the podcast and find that episode, because we'll also give you tools that help you reimagine your relationship to productivity. Right now, we're talking about our relationship to rest and unpacking it, but I want to tell you that the narratives that we've inherited around when we're allowed to rest, why we can rest, if ever, so many of them are toxic and so many of them are broken. Hard work brings true joy. Like, to who? To whom does hard work bring true joy? Does it bring true joy to me? Right? When I'm feeling guilty for missing an episode of Madam Speaker Says, and here I am fighting for my life, like, does that even compute? Does that even make sense? And also, what happened to the recognition that joy is an intrinsic good? It is an inside business, and it's happening all day, every day, if you allow it. Not that it's something that you have to earn. I'll tell you something else, okay? The relationship between that saying, that aphorism, and white supremacy. I know we don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about it. The relationship between aphorisms like hard work brings true joy and white supremacy, and the uptick of aggressive and extractive capitalism, right? That is part of white supremacist project. The relationship is a through line, and it's causal as well. You cannot have aggressive, extractive capitalism without getting people to believe that the only way to their joy is earning it through working so hard. I'm not just talking about something that happened to me when I was at the school in leafy Johannesburg suburbs. I'm talking about something that is based on research and history, okay? I am talking about the beginnings of capitalism, the very beginning of capitalism, and the way that we've inherited it today begins with slavery on the island of Hispaniola. And the way that people were driven towards crazy, unimaginable, inhuman, extremely extractive forms of productivity was to treat those people not as human beings, but as outputs and inputs into a machine that was all about profit. If you doubt this, right? Number one, just do yourself a favor and get some research done on your own, of your own industry. And where does your industry come from? What's your industry's relationship to the slave trade? Number one, start there, do that homework, and then start seeing the relationship and the layers that pile on between your toxic beliefs today and where your industry began and what it had to have people believe for that industry to thrive. I also want you to pick up a book that is called Rest as Resistance. I talk about this book all of the time. It is a Bible, especially for people of color who are serious about decolonizing your own relationship to productivity and to rest. It is by the woman who founded the NAP ministry, Tricia Hersey. I highly recommend that you check out this book. Not only check it out, but really study this book. Make it a point to interrogate yourself, and the points where your belief system is tethered to some of the toxic, old, white supremacist, extractive capitalist ideas that Tricia unpacks in her book. And also, she offers some tools, which we're going to get to some tools in just a moment. I want to now talk about the ROI, or the return on investment of rest. What do I mean by this? I mean, when you take your rest seriously, when you are restored, you actually do more for your business and for your thought leadership. It is actually jet fuel to skyrocket your whatever you're working on. In this case, we're talking about thought leadership. Therefore, I want to focus on that. But I want you to really understand that your restored energy helps you to think clearer, right? It results in you thinking clearer, in you being able to focus, in you being able to create. I already walked you through all of the anecdotes of what I personally went through, how my focus was knocked, how my creativity was knocked. But girl, can I please tell you about where I am right now, okay? I am so energized. I have so many fresh ideas, and I'm also taking my rest really seriously. Like, come these holidays, I'm going to get deeper into rest because I love this state. I love who I am and how juicy I am when I'm rested. I love waking up in the morning fresh and full of like really vital ideas. I feel like life because I am life. But the way that I get to do that is by treating my body and my rest seriously. I want you to think and know and understand that the research says your productivity goes up by 35% when you are restored, when you are in your most optimal energy level. I want you to know and understand that the number of errors that you're making go down by 50%. So that means you've got like a 35% free boost, a free boost for 35% of your creativity every single time you get to work because you have refueled the tank. Do you understand how much that translates to in dollars and cents? Do you? Because I don't think you do, right? If you did understand how much that results in dollars and cents, there's no ways you would be committed to productivity at all costs and nonstop because you're going to be irrelevant. You'd be like, girl, bye. I am going to sign up for the 35% bump to my creativity and watch that have an impact on my bottom line. The last thing I'll say on this about the ROI of rest is the model that you become, right? The kind of thought leader that you become who models to us what it looks like to be somebody who takes their well-being really seriously, but not in a like fickle way that's like buy these bath salts and get this candle. I've got nothing against bath salts. I've got nothing against candles, but I'm just saying, like, wellness is serious business and it's an investment. It's a strategic investment into yourself. It's also holy and spiritual business. And that, my friend, is you channeling your ancestors to actually make thought leadership something that is fundamentally different from the fuddy-duddy, staid thing that we are trying and working to disrupt, right? We are not interested in perpetuating thought leadership as we've inherited it. No, we are here to be the kind of thought leaders that our ancestors would be proud of. And part of that has to be adding a spiritual lens to thought leadership. Rest is spiritual work. Rest is spiritual work because you are coming at yourself and your work through a lens of legacy, and you're thinking about your thought leadership through the lens of legacy over noise. And that's really where the best thought leaders thrive. They're not trying to compete with all of the noise. They're clear and they're focused. Two things that you cannot get when you're hobbling along. You are not your productivity. You are not your productivity, and your worth is not tied to your productivity. I want you to embody and Take that in as deeply as you possibly can, as completely as you possibly can. You know, there's a quote by the teacher and somebody whose books have really changed my own life, Eckhart Tolle. And one of the things that Eckhart Tolle has said that really landed and stays with me is that you do not have a life. You are life. You do not have a life. How many times do we glibly say, you know, like, I really have to take care of this life that I have, or I, like, this is in my life, I XYZ, as though our life is a possession. Your life is not a possession. You are life. You are life. When you understand that, and this goes to the spiritual lens that we need to come to the relationship of rest with, but also that we need to add to thought leadership. When you understand that you are life, you take your needs very seriously and differently, right? When you understand that you are life, your needs are not interruptions, they're invitations. When you understand that you are life, your rest is not optional. It is refueling the source of life itself. I want you to think about, here's a question for you. I want you to think about how your calendar would change if you believed completely that you are nurturing the force of life itself, that you don't possess life, that you are life. How would your calendar completely change? Where's the places where you would have better boundaries? Where's the places where you would feel expansion and abundance? Also, in closing, and we're about to close in just a moment, I want to offer you some tools as questions that can guide you in reimagining your own relationship to rest, in questioning the dangerous and toxic narratives that you may be carrying that say, if I miss one episode of a podcast or one post, if I don't show up in the way that I already promised, even though I feel compromised and I actually don't have anything to give because my tank is not full right now, I want you to consider these questions for yourself. Maybe you journal them. Maybe you come back to this podcast. Maybe you also share them with a friend and it's a jumping off place for a conversation. Where are you performing productivity right now? Where are you operating without intention? Where are you filling your calendar with busy work? Where are you saying yes because of FOMO and not because of a full body, spirited yes? Where are you performing productivity right now? What does rest help you see that you forget when you're depleted? Do you forget your vision, where you're trying to go? Do you forget your values? Do you make compromises around your values? Do you forget your voice or that you have a voice when you're depleted? Are you more silent? Are you more likely to go along with things that are in conflict with your values, right? And sometimes it's all of those things showing up all at once because you are depleted. You forget that you have a voice. Things are in conflict with your vision and with your values, rather. And definitely, I can promise you, if those two things are happening, you are not in alignment with your vision and you will not get to the place where your ancestors have sent you here to go. Okay? Number 3, what do you need in order to reclaim your time and your energy? What do you need in order to reclaim all of your energy and your time? Do you need a week? Do you need silence? Do you need help? Do you need more sleep? Do you need more joy and fun and an infusion of a force that feels like, oh, I'm so grateful and happy to be alive every single morning? If you're not feeling that, touch in with yourself and ask, What do I need to get back to that feeling? And if you've never felt that, this is a really good time to go through this exercise and replay this particular episode and maybe do a full source audit of where's the negative stuff coming from and how do we begin cleaning it up. I want you to know that in my coaching practice, right, Madam Speaker Says has a coaching practice where I work with thought leaders who are just like you. We're not just helping people move to the next level, getting on stages and putting out op-eds that are really bangers and mash and move culture and shake people to see what is wrong in the public square right now, right? And to create the kind of world that not only our ancestors would be proud of, but 7 generations of our descendants down the line will be proud of as well. We're not only doing that work, and that work matters. That's why this podcast exists. That's why we're in the coaching booth. But let me tell you something. The most difficult part of the work is not the actual crafting. It's not the execution. It is getting inside of the destructive, dangerous, and toxic beliefs that keep us small, even when we think that we're staying relevant. And one of the ways that we do that is by talking about radical rest. One of the ways that I do that is by challenging the beliefs that you have that you might think are helping you but are actually costing you. And this is just one example of that. If that's something that you're interested in, the show notes always have details about how to get on my calendar for coaching. I will tell you, January is starting to fill up. So if you're really serious, I work with a limited number of really amazing and wow. I mean, I look up to the thought leaders that I work with. If you're interested in that, check out the details and show notes. I want to close by reminding you that thought leadership does not come from increased quantity. It comes from resonance. It comes from people hearing what you have to say because it's so clear and because it's so sharp and deeply with all of their body agreeing with what you have to say. Or sometimes it's them having like a very visceral reaction to what you have to say. It's not only about agreement, right? You need to train yourself, if you're serious about that kind of work, to be in the marathon and not the sprint, which sometimes means doing less and meaning more. In this coming week, and here's my final challenge to you. In this coming week, I want you to focus less on noise and more on clarity. What is it that you can cut out in this coming week that will help you focus more on clarity and less on noise? And then I want you to go a step further and ask yourself, in the coming year, in 2026, what is it that you can do to focus more on clarity and less on your noise? And that probably looks like coming up with a list of things from 2025 that you're letting go of, that you're like, I don't need this anymore. This is taking away from my energy. How can I restore my time and my energy? Where's the things that fuel me up and make me feel like my best self? That's the energy that we want to move into the new year with. All right, I have yapped, I've yapped, and I've been happy to yap because I have the energy to yap because I rested. And I'm so grateful to you for being here for this episode of Madam Speaker Says. I will see you here next week. We have amazing fresh recordings of Madam Speaker Says. I've been speaking with some really just like when I tell you these are women who I admire and whose work is literally right now shifting tectonic plates underneath the culture. You better be locked in, you better be subscribed, and you might want to share this with somebody you care about who could use this particular message about rest, who maybe is a little bit delulu right now, because you're not anymore, because you just listened to this podcast. But maybe there's somebody in your life who's a little bit delulu about how much they need to be hard on themselves and constantly productive in order to stay relevant. Eye roll, complete eye roll. Thank you again for being here. My name is Magogodi, and this is Madam Speaker Says. Hey, pull up. Just you and me for a second. Are you an exec, a founder, or an entrepreneur who's sick of shrinking in rooms you're overqualified to lead? It's time to stop playing small and start owning your expertise. But how, Magogodi? Girl, I got you. I offer coaching that helps women of color just like you to claim your place as a thought leader. Whether you want to command a room, craft and share your signature story, or finally get that book out of your head and onto bookshelves, I've got the strategy and spicy accountability that you need. If you're tired of seeing less qualified folks shine while you stay behind the scenes, girl, the wait list is open. Follow the link in show notes to stop waiting for permission and claim your VIP spot now. My mission? Helping women just like you to snatch the spotlight, shake the table, and take your damn seat at the top already. No begging, no detours, and nope, no apologies. Just bold ass moves.